Every man has his heroes, and every life is made up of stories. Heroic Stories is a series from heroicmen.org to find out why some men choose the harder path in life, even when it means losing everything, how they survived, and who they are today. These men seem heroic to us, even if they don't call themselves that. They seem to have an extra strength in their system, extra grit to battle doubt and find purpose. All of these men are seeking divine friendship with God, and they all believe in building up faith, building up men, and building up our future. Sponsored by CatholicSpeakers.com and hosted by Dominic from Heroic Men, get the mindsets, the scars, and the playbooks that these men have earned the hard way. Heroism isn't born, it's made, and these are their stories. Hi friends, and welcome back to Heroic Stories. I'm your host, Dominic from Team Heroic Men, joined today by Brian Shields, famously known as the Weatherman. Hi Brian, how are you?
Dominic, thank you for having me. I am great. Thank you for what you do. It's awesome to be here. I really appreciate it.
Oh, I'm looking forward to this conversation. It's always a fantastic opportunity, as I said before, to hear a ton of different points of view on heroism. I'm firmly convinced of this theme, this idea that the soul of a man is a hero. And even though we may not all get it, and we're all fighting towards this same North Star, we each have a different way of accomplishing it, and different stories and different heroes that we look at to inspire the adventure of being a man. So I'm curious to meet the man behind your own ministry and understand more about what gets you going in the morning. So first question usually is, what is a story of heroism that absolutely lights you up?
Well, let me start. If you don't, I'll jump back just a touch from there to tie that in. That is a tough and good question. I do have an answer to that. To your point, you mentioned a few minutes ago being on a podcast like this, heroic men. It always, I'm like, oh, that's not me, and I'm sure other people say the same thing. With that said, it's such a reminder that we are called in different ways. And how I became Mr. Weatherman on YouTube was in a way that I didn't think would happen. I did some ministry work down in Haiti. I realized they don't have good weather coverage at all down in Haiti, to the point where people sent their kids off to school as a hurricane was coming, and some did not return back in 2016, Hurricane Matthew. So I came back from my ministry work in Haiti just with my church. I didn't even know why I was going down there. And in kind of maybe a cocky fashion, I was like, let me save Haiti with the weather. So I did. I spent a few years trying to figure out how to get Haiti good weather information. I was a TV meteorologist at the time. I offered my free services. Dominic, nobody bought. Haiti's a very difficult circumstance in itself. But I ran across a girl at a youth ministry there, and I asked her when I was there, I said, when did you know Hurricane Matthew was coming? And she said, we did not know until it started raining. And she said, we did not know how bad it was until it was the wind started to pick up. And I asked so many more people on that trip the same thing. And Dominic, they didn't know. Point being, to answer your question, trying to get to it quickly, I spent years trying to figure out what to do about this. And then one of my sons walked past me and he said, Dad, just do what you do on TV for them. Just do what you do. And I think us as men, as women, as, children of God, we're trying to look kind of to these giant things. And one of my sons reminded me that the talent I have, or, the God-given gifts I have, is to do the weather. So I didn't know what it looked like at the time. My three sons told me, hey, do it on YouTube. And that's what I did. So I think just to your initial point, being a hero, we all have that inside of us because God put that inside of us. It's just trying to figure it out. And I think sometimes, at least me, in my egotistical way, I'm trying to look at something big and giant. And it took one of my sons to be like, hey, just do the weather, Dad. Do what you're always doing. Just do it for them. There was an email sent to me after Hurricane Melissa this past late October that hit Jamaica. Horrific, absolutely horrific hurricane. And she sent me an email afterward thanking me for being a hero, which, I took in. I liked. No, I didn't. I brushed back a little bit. She said, she said she was in Jamaica. She had a friend visiting her from the coast. And when her friend was visiting her friend was going to return to her home. And she said, Brian, I took the information you gave me and I told my friend, I said, hey, do not return home. Stay with me. Brian said this is going to be a bad storm. Stay with me. Turns out her house was wiped away. She could have been killed. So she was thanking me for being a quote unquote hero. And I am not going to diminish a piece I played in that. But what keeps me going are stories like her. Her
Mhm.
story is the hero's story in this. She took information, I gave the information, but she took the action. She took information I gave and she kept her family or her friends safe. She was actually the hero in the story. So gracious to thank me. She was the hero. She took action. And it's things like that that really kind of light a fire in me. It's little stories that are big stories that are really life-saving stories. People just in their spot. She's about to go through a hurricane. And again, it's not these big things. It's her skill set. Her skill set was to take information I gave, but then to translate it and save one of her friends. Stories like that, Dominic, are what keep me kind of light a fire on.
Imagine. What's your own background? How did you get into what you're doing?
Oh, I loved weather ever since I was a kid. I believe it was probably because I was scared of storms. But from day one, I wanted to do something with the weather. And when you're little, back in in the 80s or whatever, yeah, I'm in my mid 40s now. When you're back in the 80s and you're like, I like weather. So all you see at that time is, well, the guy on TV does weather. So I'll do that. So that's how I got into the TV aspect of it. But it wasn't about the TV part. It was always about the weather part. It was just so fascinating. And then just early in my career, I had good mentors that, took me out and I went out into not like one of those crazy storm chasers per se, but I remember being, in a hotel in Louisiana back in, I'm going to get the date wrong. It was 2002 or 2000. And it was a storm that was going to be like the Katrina, which happened a couple of years later, but it weakened at the last second. But you saw people and they're packing up everything in their cars, everything they have, because they don't have insurance and they know their home is going to get wiped out. And
Mm.
like you see that stuff firsthand. And, I was in hotels where it didn't matter. Everyone was welcome, and people weren't. They were taking their mattresses outside of from their hotel rooms and bringing them into the hallway because they knew the windows were going to blow out. And then on the
Wow.
flip side of that thing, there were people that simply couldn't evacuate. So just seeing that stuff, seeing how weather's amazing, but on the flip side, how it truly impacts people, and just to get the message to people of not just hey, it's going to be 100-mile-per-hour winds. What does that mean for my family, and how do I keep my family safe? And those, I'm always thinking of those that are alone in the storms because like storms can be scary. Any situation is scary, especially if you're alone. So being able to be on YouTube now and just reach a larger amount and form communities on YouTube. Each of my channels is kind of really a community of people talking to each other in the comment section. So people, in a way, are not alone, and
Mhm.
that keeps me going too. Is just I'm always thinking of those that are alone in a storm, maybe the elderly, maybe somebody who needs a little extra assistance, but just to have a community for people to come together.
Gosh, this is kind of reminding me. There was a novel that I read. It was a science fiction novel, and it was set in the near future, some post-apocalyptic sort of thing. And one man decided he had nothing to live for, and he stumbled across a mail carrier's van. I don't remember the name of the book. Maybe it was the mailman or the postman or something. And he decided, well, there's nothing else to do with my life. I'll just deliver this mail. And so he treks across North America and he just delivers the mail to these places. And then over time, he ends up reconnecting the cities just through delivering people's mail, and he recreates a sense of normalcy and humanity and
Hmm.
civilization literally by delivering mail. And I'm just hearing what you're doing, and
Those
it's like,
things, yeah.
my goodness, just by simply reporting on the weather, you're creating a
Mhm.
sense of humanity and community and of safe making. I think that's a fantastic thing. Have you yourself been stuck in any dangerous situations through your work or through the
Uh,
traveling that you've done?
yeah, I mean, through storms, yes. Sometimes in my travels to Haiti in itself, there's been some instances aside from storms that we need to kind of navigate around with the politics the way they are in Haiti. But yeah, I've been in storms. Now, what's kind of interesting is people always ask me, they're like, well, if there's a hurricane, do you go? I actually do the opposite. Wherever one is, I try not to be because I need to stay up and running because that is
Yeah.
that is what kind of I'm called to do, is to get the information out. And if the power's out and the internet's out and I can't get that information out,
Mhm.
that's not ideal. But what I also do try to do is right after a storm is, if it's appropriate, if I can help, I try to get there. So actually, earlier in my career, yes, I would be in some of those storms. There was a couple incidences that would be a little bit scary, but now I avoid them
Mhm.
best I can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. At the same time, there seems to be a very there's a boldness to what you're doing. I mean, I love the stories that you have just shared.
how do I say, like they've given you a North Star, something to fight towards, a reason to keep doing what you're doing. But to go from it being a child, like you said, somebody who is afraid of the weather, to now being somebody who's like full on tackled it as opposed to running away from it. Why were you the guy who kind of went towards the bull? And then you found your own way to stay safe from it and also bring safety to a
Oh.
whole lot of other people, as opposed to somebody who just like, yeah, I'm never doing weather. I'm going to, accounting or something.
Uh, I would say I don't know. I mean, it's him, obviously, but I don't. I think the root was I loved the weather and the power of it and the beauty. Even from rainbows, which are just gorgeous, to incredibly powerful systems out there. So long they're not impacting people, hurricanes and typhoons. So I love the weather. I don't know how I got from there to here. It's amazing how the journey has gone. I mean, it took one of my kids to be like, just dad, shut up and just do what you do and just keep doing it, but just do it in a slightly different way. A lot of times you don't recognize the skills you have, or, you're always seeing other people and doing other things. I'm not sure. I don't know how I got here. I think it is bizarre in a way. Sometimes when I get a minute to breathe, I'm like, yeah, I mean, I feel, my main channel is rooted in the Caribbean. And I'm there. That's where I'm bouncing around to different islands in the Caribbean. And I'm just like, I can't, the fact that this is my life is bizarre, but it also feels very comfortable, in a way.
You're in the right
So
place. Yeah.
you feel like you're in the right place. And it's not easy. There's a lot of challenges. I have another channel. I do Europe and I do Asia now. And it's the same results of, it's hard. It's a lot of work, but you're like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I think
Mhm.
you never,
Yeah.
I question
Yeah.
myself every day, but
I
yeah.
think I think a root sort of, not cause of bravery, but sort of an ability to be brave is just getting used to a series of micro yeses. It's
Mhm.
not one massive yes. It's just suddenly finding yourself at the edge of something and like, oh, how did I even get here? It's like, well, it took a bunch of good little
Oh,
moments to get you here.
yeah.
For so okay, second segment is a story of what was a really difficult time. In fact, the most difficult time in your life. What was
Ooh.
that? And then how did you get through it?
You mentioned, and I bring this up because you just mentioned something. How do it's a lot of little yeses. It's a lot of things along the way. One of the things along the way was for me was my church. While I started, trying to help people down in Haiti, it was my pastor at the time, grabbed me and he was like, "You need to keep doing this." And it was just kind of out of the blue. And then I had one of my deacons, who's a good friend of mine, was like, and I didn't even know they watched. Like I didn't even know, and he goes, whatever happens, you keep doing this. And I think it's sometimes other people helping you out and helping kind of navigate your path, for not for you, but just they were able to give me
Confirming
the
it.
nudges. Yeah, the nudges I've needed. One of my very close friends is a priest at my church, and he is oddly, it's weird how life works. He's Jamaican, and I live in the States, and my one of my biggest viewing areas is Jamaica, and we travel all the time to Jamaica. So that's one piece. Professionally, it was hard to navigate, but I give credit to other people. I will say other hard stories would be, and again, these are not the broad, probably correct answers. Just an instance, even thinking back to Hurricane Melissa, I remember just the people I meet. I had a friend of mine, I'm nonstop in my studio, video after video, putting out the information on Melissa. And the problem is for me is that I know what's going to happen because I've been there and I've been to different places and I know what the weather does. So I know that walls are going to fall in on people.
Mhm.
So again, it's not about me, but like behind the scenes, like I know this stuff based on whatever the storm is, based on what country I'm dealing with, based on infrastructure, all of that, and just experience over time. And it's hard.
Mhm.
I don't usually share that. Covering Melissa was very uh, difficult because I knew what was going to happen to friends. I have a lot of friends in Jamaica, and I remember getting a message from one of my friends down there, and he was with his daughter. He was with his family, and
Mhm.
during the storm, he sent me a message on WhatsApp. And and I was very busy, just video after video, and but I was keeping my chats open, because I knew my friends coming out of Jamaica, and he just said, "Brian, how much longer?" And I knew what that meant. There was so much in that. The Brian, how much longer was, and I looked at the satellite picture, and the core of it was right on top of him. And I sent him a message underneath that, and it was, and I already told everyone best I could what to do. It's just my advice. Take it if you want. But I was like, get your mattress, make sure you have your mattress because the walls are going to be caving in, and have that on top of you. And I sent him that message again. And I said, like 3 to 5 hours are the worst. Be under your mattress and that sort of thing as the walls cave in. And then I didn't hear from him. And then the next day I didn't hear from him. And the day after that, I didn't hear from him, and I didn't hear from other
That sounds
friends.
agonizing.
And you don't know, you don't know. And then I linked up with the Diocese of Mandeville and Food for the Poor, great charity based in Jamaica and Florida, and went down there, and I was able to give him a big hug, and he was okay, and he got through. But those things and it's not about me. It's truly about, I think it's why I do what I do.
Mhm.
But I know, like, that's what people deal with in storms. It's real. You see it no matter what country, no matter what economic status. I mean, massive tornadoes in the United States, wildfires in parts of Europe. I mean, just, pick your continent. It's, I don't, want to- it's something we all deal with. And it's just knowing that people are in those positions and will be again, you know, I'm happy I was able to, have a friendship with him and talk to him. But those are agonizing situations. Not so much for me, but just thinking of them. They're in it. I'm not.
Tell me, if you would, why, like, what is it about you that you keep going? You keep doing this. Like you said, you just described, that's a very agonizing sounding situation to be in. And it's never going to end. Weather's never going to end. Making friends, God willing, it's never going to end. And unfortunately, those two things just, don't mix well together. And it can be very difficult to be somebody who does care. Mm, I'd love to understand more about who were you, what kind of a man were you, especially as you're growing up and then you're getting into this, and why are you the kind of guy who keeps going?
I'm probably a train wreck to answer your question. I mentioned the love of weather, but what keeps me going is you go to I mean, take it with a grain of salt, because when you put yourself out there in the public, you're going to get good comments and bad comments, and I'll leave it at that, and that's fine. But it's truly the people that I have connected with on my channels. You go to the comment section, the community, and it's the community they built, because that's not normal for YouTube. YouTube is in particular about the video, and the comments are great and they help the algorithm and all that stuff. But it is truly when we get a big system, a big typhoon, or a big like there was just a typhoon that went through Guam and the Mariana Islands, Northern Mariana Islands, and you see the people in the comment section from different countries being like, hey, I went through this. This is what I did. This is how I could help. Where are you? What are you doing? I've been on that island before. It's crazy. And I look at my Europe channel, and it's like, if you look at Europe and how weather's done, and it happens in the States too, it's done for, a country, and it's like, it's not connected. Like weather, it starts in Ireland and sweeps all the way through, Croatia, and then, elsewhere in Romania. Like, so and you see in the Europe page, you have people literally, and I saved some of them, commenting with each other like, wow, this is crazy. Like, I'm talking with someone in Germany, in Poland, and then down in Czechia. And it's so the people that watch and they keep me going. They send me these great messages that are just fantastic. And just to see how they're connected, like, I don't want to stop. I want to work harder, because it's amazing how it just, the connections of people. And then when there's a bad situation, how they help each other. They help others. So
Mhm.
I'm just a small piece. What you do is fantastic, and you do a lot of things. But even when you interview people like this and getting people's stories out, it's like, you're a piece of that, and it's great. But what keeps you going? What keeps me going is all of these people that are just, one, grateful. They keep me going. Great comments, and they're out there helping each other. I don't want to stop that.
Yeah, that's amazing. You're somebody who's in the public eye a lot, either on TV or also now being on YouTube or traveling and you're speaking. How do you stay sane? Because I imagine you get a bunch of backlash. I imagine that
Yeah,
people
yeah,
even blame you for things, especially when it comes to things like weathers or there's human
uh,
tragedies and so on. How do you handle that?
yeah. I mean, it's just you. I mean, it's anything with life. I mean, I am grateful. I'm right now in an air conditioned studio, sipping on a nice coffee. So I am. I'm in a very good spot. I just went to mass 2 hours ago with a priest. So I am. Things are good. So just. this world is not meant to be perfect. It's not perfect. I don't want to
Mhm.
say it's not meant to be perfect. It is not perfect as it is, and we know that, and we go through. Uh, but being in the public eye is just, I do remind, my mom occasionally each morning too. She likes to go through the comments, and I'm like, just ignore some of them, mom. Ignore some of them. So it's her big retirement job is to go through my comments.
Okay.
But no, it's there's going to be people that say things all the time,
Mhm.
good, bad, or whatever. But I mean, 99% of the comments on my channels are absolutely positive. And the 1%, remind myself a lot of times, and it's not an excuse for somebody else, but it's, when somebody, I have bad days and I get in bad moods and I say things I shouldn't say all the time, all the time. And I try to think, boy, what are they going through? Like to say, some people say some crazy stuff. We know that, like what, man, they must be in not a good spot. Like that's, and I'm not saying it excuses things, but I try to really think, wow, for them to say that, they must just not be in a great situation. Sometimes, say a little prayer for them and
I want to go back to something you were riffing on for a second there. You talked about being in an air conditioned office and having a nice coffee and stuff, and the rest of the world is on fire. And sometimes I'm curious what you think about this. Where do you go with this? Because it seems like it's something that you're living. I'm deeply convinced that there's a specific charism for the First World War, for like America, where in so many ways we are a land of plenty. There's an incredible amount of safety here, of good that we have either inherited or benefited from, or that we're safeguarding, and so on. And I firmly believe that when you're given well, with great responsibility. No, darn, what is that line
yes,
from
yeah,
Peter
you're
Parker?
good. That's what
Right?
I knew. That's exactly what I was thinking. Right when you brought this up, that's exactly what I was thinking. And it's true. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the
I'll
sense of
grab
when
one of my kids. They'll know it.
they'll know it. It's like
Uh,
with great power comes great responsibility, right? And I
yeah.
think that the First World West, someone like America, I'm stunned to hear something like what you just said. That, for example, a lot of Europe or China, or they have all of these independent news stations, and it sounds like nobody's talking to each other. Nobody gets this interconnected sense of what's happening at large, and so you're providing a service not just to Europe, but then there's also, it sounds like, a lot of areas more in the third world. They're able to get a bird's eye view that they would never be able to have without someone like yourself just simply showing up online and just doing something. So this is something that I think a lot of us struggle with, and certain, groups in our country struggle with a sense of survivor's guilt. I think the sense that I have an incredible amount of privilege, a lot of people don't. And then you have to ask yourself, what is an appropriate reaction to that? And a bunch of people go, well, nobody should have it if everybody can't. And I'm more convinced, like, no, I think that if you have it, own it,
Hmm.
get to a
Hmm.
point of balance and rest, and then ask, what is the maximal amount of good that I can do from a state, that's good for a human being to be in. And ultimately, we want all human beings to get to a point where we can be at this same level. So I'm curious if you understand where I'm going with this and what you think. It sounds like it's the kind of thing that you've probably wrestled with.
I was not going to interrupt you there. Everything you just said, yes, correct. Yes, I agree with that. And I do think about it. I try to take time to think of it. I'm like, boy, I was, and there's better, I was like, wow, I was born into a good situation. Like, economically, that's sort of like a solid country that happens to have a very solid government, and, and I agree with you though, but you could have the guilt, but if you're just running with this guilt, then you're maybe not doing anything. I look at it as a responsibility. It's
Mhm,
like, what can I do? I can do more. Like I should be doing more. I guess sometimes I could go too far into one direction where, sometimes it's okay to take a day and rest and,
mhm,
and just be grateful and have a good time. But no, and we talk to our kids about that too. Like we're in a pretty good spot. And things could change always, health, anything, everyone has different things, but no, it's an opportunity to do more. It's just, or not more, because I shouldn't say more, because no matter where you are, you can do more. You can do great things. That's a
mhm,
key though, too. Like no matter where you are, you can do, and I see it no matter where I am, great things that are happening. But if you're in a situation, I'm sitting in air conditioning right now while people are literally, in these massive heat waves right now, some really fighting for their lives, especially if they're sick. uh,
mhm.
I have an opportunity to do more. And and I should, and I try, and I fail, and I try again.
Yeah, I appreciate that. What goes through your mind, or how do you handle that? So I used to have OCD really bad, not just OCD, not skepticism, scrupulosity. I used to be extremely scrupulous about a lot of stuff and learned to sort of calm that down in more recent years. But taking something like that,
It's
like what we're
hard.
talking about right now, I can see a lot of people becoming extremely scrupulous and then running themselves into the ground or grinding themselves down to the bone, trying to be a good person and then missing maybe the bigger point. And I'm curious what you think the bigger point would be, or
Yeah.
how do you stay sane if the goal is, to be a good man, the ultimate goal maybe to find a way to be a heroic man, and that's the ultimate sort of North Star for life. How to be a good man when it's so easy to fall from one side, which would be I don't care, I
hmm
can't do anything about that, and the other side is to be scrupulous and try to fix everybody's problems and to be live streaming for 16 hours straight because it's a national emergency for another country, and you got to find a sense of balance because
hmm
we can't carry the world. And how do you make sense of that?
it comes right back to faith. So in a very small, unimportant way, sometimes like when there's a big storm and I'm trying to do something and I have a technical issue and I'm trying to get something out, I take a second. I'm like, maybe, not that God necessarily created the technical issue, but I'm like, maybe there's a reason for this. Maybe this video needs to be delayed an hour. I don't know. I think just realizing it comes right back to faith and scripture. And it's hard because you kind of go in a certain direction and then you kind of go back. It's as far as trying to do too much, you try to, I think for me, it's other people that are reminding me that within myself and within yourself and other people, you have these talents that are unique. And no matter where you are in life, you reach a circle, a group of people that is completely unique. You reach a group that nobody else reaches. And I'm not just talking about friends and family, people that you may see shopping, people you encounter on the roads, people you just brush by in church or, at a sporting event or something. Your circle is completely unique. Your abilities are completely unique as well. Nobody has what you have. Nobody, not one single person has what you have. Therefore, you have an opportunity. That's an opportunity. You have an opportunity to reach people in a way that nobody else has. And you have that ability because God has given you the ability, has given you the talents. So just remembering that, whether, it's a guilt feeling or it's you think you're going off the wrong direction, you know, y- you kind of have what it takes, but it's a matter of kind of navigating it. But you reach a circle that nobody else reaches. And I think sometimes remembering that it doesn't give me the burden. It's just like, okay, that's, the people around me. This is where maybe I'm supposed to be. This is where I'm supposed to minister. My pastor, he just retired. He always wanted to be a pastor at, a very, if you will, in a poor community, like a missionary type of pastor. And he got plopped into one of the wealthiest, communities in the world.
That is an impossible mission field.
It's an impossible, but then he found, and he didn't know he was going to like it. I mean, he found, well, oh my goodness, these people have great capabilities, great whatever. They also have problems, and we all have problems, and we all have, this is a little bit of a tangent, but it's kind of tied in. It doesn't matter where we are necessarily in the world. We have ability to help, help people, even if you're, in a nursing facility and you don't reach a whole lot of people, you reach somebody.
It sounds like
Faith.
it sounds like your
Yeah.
faith has been an anchor, has been a big deal for you. Was there a point, especially in all of the stuff that you see and the people that you meet, is there a point where you were really challenged in it and it became perhaps impossible or difficult? Did you ever almost walk away?
Yeah, I mean, I have thought about that. I'm like, maybe I'm done. Maybe I'm done with the weather thing. Maybe I'm done with, that sort of thing. But by the grace of God, other people have kind of bumped shoulders with me and have kind of reminded me, redirected me. I don't know how, saw things I didn't see and have kept me on a path or have helped me take a different path to kind of keep me going. Yeah.
Yeah. Why is your faith real to you? It sounds like it's very formative. I mean, if we're on this show, it's because our faith is a deep formative part of who we are as men. Yeah, for you. Why is it? Because there are a lot of other weathermen, and their faith doesn't mean anything really to them. Doesn't seem to really inspire them much. For you, it really seems to be a big deal. Why?
I need it. I think aside from the weatherman part, I mean, I need it. I am, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a train wreck. I need my faith. I am so imperfect. Got a zillion thoughts in my head every single minute. So I actually need my faith, and that's a selfish thing. Like I love my faith, but without it, I don't know you know, what there is. I mean, everything has to be rooted in that. I mean, I'm off track all the time, so don't put me in some sort of bucket of like this guy is like I'm in the this guy needs help section of church, just to let you know. So you walk into church and I'm in like with we're big mess in the back corner.
I usually lock myself in the
But
cry room, so you're good.
that seems good. That seems good. Yeah, it to me it just has to be rooted in faith, but because I truly think it helps me. Yeah. Why I believe, it's not about me for the record.
I appreciate you allowing me to grill you on some of this. So, yeah, who are your heroes? Men, especially men that you look to that inspire you as a man. And this could be personal life, it could be history or movies or anything.
Oh, wow. Wow. That is man, that could be anything. I mean, truly heroes, for me, it would be, if we're going to check the boxes, but I mean, it would be, you'd start with your parents and my parents and then going down the road, but, people that have been around me. But I guess that's the so called generic answer. I'm not diminishing that answer for anybody else.
No, it's not
Uh,
everybody can answer that. It's a good one. Can I ask
it's,
more about them?
yeah.
Who are they? Why do they inspire you?
I would say, I look at my parents. They gave me the gift of my faith, which is fantastic, and they have been supportive. And it's funny, both of my parents they came from kind of different backgrounds. My mom came from more of an affluent background. My dad did not,
Mm.
and to see how they have navigated through that and how life is bumpy is amazing. And they got when we're on vacation, they got their butts to mass, and ours, and just stayed on. While things could be going in a completely not good direction, there's certain things you do there's certain things you have to do. My mom was a teacher, special education, autism, her side of the family, a lot of them did that. And that was amazing to see. Really, really good people, really good people. Um, and then my dad's upbringing was I'll just say challenging, and he came from a difference. And I told him, I was like, "Wow, you picked a good wife. That's why you married her, huh? Because she had some." No, no, I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. But yeah, them two, very, very good people to say the least.
What is a
Heroes.
Well, I'm curious to ask more about your dad. What's a lesson you think that you inherited or learned from your dad? Sounds like he was a go-getter.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think though too with him, he worked very hard because he needed to provide. And he was super successful, but at the same time, he always had a good perspective because I see people like him. He went through. He was. I would just say a very prominent businessman, but he did it in a way that some do not. I see people in whatever field, go down a different road. You're traveling a lot of drinking, a lot of whatever, maybe not with the family as much. And he stuck to his morals,
Hmm.
a lot his ethics, the whole way through, and was completely successful with that, just being a good person. And then when the time was done, he hung up his hat, walked away from it, and retired. Which I think some people also have trouble doing to a degree. So, but I think he was able to do that in a good manner because his family was the most important thing. I don't know if any of that makes sense, but yeah,
No, that's
yeah.
good. Thank you. Well, any other heroes? Anybody else who inspires you, especially as a man?
Wow, that is well, this one's different. So I went to Villanova. So man,
Okay.
when we found out who our pope was, like I about died. Like I thought my wife and I went to Villanova, and obviously Pope Leo went to Villanova. Like I mean, we were because growing up, you knew there was a 0% chance there was ever going to be an American pope in our lifetime, our kids' lifetime, and our grandkids' lifetime. So I remember joking with my kids the morning of the resolution of the conclave. The kids were running off to school, and I can't remember if it was me or one of my kids, and we're like, "Well, who do we think is going to be the Pope?" And someone's like, "Oh, it'll be Pope Bob." Well, it turns out it was, it was Robert, and I knew I was always looking at the rankings, and I was like, he's like 11th or 12th in there. That's kind of odd that he's so high because he's American. So I look up to him, and I even all our popes, our recent popes, the
Mhm.
challenges they have, and I know that seems like a big broad answer looking at the Pope, but
Yeah.
I got to walk the same halls as the Pope, so it's just
Wow.
amazing. But the stuff they have to deal with and navigate while they're preaching the gospel is just,
Mhm.
and it's fun because you could look to that. You could see that every day. You could almost follow along on how he has to deal with it, and Pope Francis included. And then just Benedict down the line. Just they're truly an inspiration, and I think that's good. Sometimes it's always maybe it's the smaller, cutesier story of somebody, a neighbor or somebody like that. But it's great we have a figure that is like her, and we have good popes. Like Pope Leo, Francis, Benedict before, never gave Benedict enough credit, by the way. And to kind of look at them, and obviously John Paul as heroes, as men, as standing up, and it's not easy. Like, yeah, it's super hard what they have to do. So hard their
Mhm.
position, and just to see them out there preaching the gospel and just keeping a straight line is awesome.
That's incredible. Well, you've kind of answered this last question through the course of this conversation. But so the closing question is, who do you seek to be a hero for, or put heroic effort into serving? And of course, can't you can't pick God or your family because those are givens. So who are you here for with, your life mission that you can imagine or you assume?
I would say not a particular person,
Hmm.
but in what I do. I don't mean this in a way to diminish the group I'm about to mention, but and maybe it's a fear I have that's deep down that I don't know, but it's people that are alone. There are so many people out there that are just by themselves, and that's not, you're never truly by yourself. You have, but that's who I try to serve in what I do, is those that may feel alone, because that's a horrible feeling sometimes.
Hmm.
Being alone is one thing. Feeling alone is a totally different thing. So in what I do, and I think that keeps me going. Um, I'm always thinking of those that are alone. So my YouTube, well, there's bazillion people, and it looks like this big flashy thing, this community of people that may not be as connected, are now connected. That keeps me, that's who I try to quote be a hero for, somebody who I look up to. Well, it is not a man, it is Mother Teresa. And I truly believe, Mother Teresa, again, all the bells and whistles, the movie is made about her, all of the good stuff, like, I mean, she was truly trying to serve. She saw one person with, essentially, with one problem. There were people dying in the streets, and her gift was not, you ask her when I go out and do school talks, what did Mother Teresa bring people? Well, she brought people, food and clothing, and she brought people the gift of presence. Like, it was love. Like, she knew that when she started her mission, it was people literally dying, like literally dying in the gutters, and it was just, they cannot die alone. Like,
Hmm.
that's the most horrible thing. I mean, you just see it. Now, I'm not paraphrasing. It's what she has put out there, and it's documented. It's that it was, I mean, she was essentially giving out hugs and comfort while people were dying. Like, that
Hmm.
is the number one. These people that were alone and dying, she just said, no, like, that's not going to happen. And that's somebody who I, you know, look up to in more ways than one and think about often.
Thanks for joining us. If this story connected with you, send it to someone. And if you want to chat with us about anything that we've said, send us a message at heroicmen.org/stories. Our partner at CatholicSpeakers.com has built the easiest way to book powerful Catholic speakers for your men's event. They are the #1 resource worldwide for event organizers and Catholic speakers. Book easily, confidently, and ask for several grants to support ministry to men. Visit heroicmen.org/speakers today. Come and share your journey in the Heroic Brotherhood, our online community for Catholic men like you. Get the app with the best Catholic media for men, including Heroic Men's original series, Be a Man. It's all free, because an alliance of donors already paid it forward for you. Stand with us. Let's build the future of Catholic men. Will you pay it forward? $5 a month pays it forward for 5 men. Visit Heroic Men to stand with us. Because men like us, we leave no man behind. Visit heroicmen.org today.